What's going on, guys? Spud here, and welcome to episode 24 of Spud Ball. I think it's 24. In this video, we're going to be ranking every team's Premier League season. We're going to do a tier list, so like A plus all the way down to F. And it's based on just how they've performed in the Premier League, so we're not going to be talking about other competitions. So, like, we're not going to include that Newcastle won the Carabao Cup or that Arsenal just beat Real Madrid 3-0 in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. It's just about the Premier League. And it'll be a mixture of how the new signings that they've had have played, have they overachieved expectations, have they been terrible, stuff like that. But we're going to talk about every team in here. We're going to do it probably in just a random order, to be honest. Just so that it's not just going F F F F E E D whatever, you know what I mean. But yeah, this obviously will be out on Friday. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. It's free. We've actually been doing a bit more football recently. I think because we do 3 videos a week now on YouTube, obviously one of them will always probably be the roundup. When obviously the COD season finishes, that'll probably be taken over by like an F1 performance pusher video, and that returns on the channel for the first time since F1 22. Obviously we do a lot of Life is Strange and Walking Dead videos. Obviously Lost Records is coming back for the next few weeks, including Saturday, so there won't be as much Walking Dead stuff. It'll probably be mainly Lost Records for the gaming side. But yeah, anyway, enough waffle from myself. Let's get straight into it. And like I said, I'm literally improvising a random order, but I know where I'm putting everyone. So we're going to start with Crystal Palace. And based on Crystal Palace's season in the Premier League, I'm gonna put them in C. Now, the reason that I'm putting them in C is because they had they had a terrible start to the season. It looked like they missed Elise a lot, which they did. Adam Wharton was constantly injured. Mateta wasn't firing. Eze wasn't firing. It just and obviously they lost Joaquin Anderson. It just wasn't looking very good for Crystal Palace. But in 2025, they have performed really, really well. But unfortunately, even though they probably could have if they'd had a good start to the season, because they were in the relegation battle at one point. If they'd had a good start to the season, they could have been fighting for those European spots. But based on how they've done in this Premier League season, I'm going to give them a C. I mean, Sar's been a decent signing for them. The other signings, though, Chadi Riyad, ACL injury, I think. Um, Kamada hasn't been very good, and Ketia hasn't been very good. So Lacroix's been good. So Lacroix and Sarr have been good, but the rest of the signings have been a bit disappointing, I would say. I think C might be a bit harsh, but it's like a high C. I'm going to put them in order, by the way. So if there was 2 teams in C, whoever goes further up on the list is higher up. Then we're going to go for Brentford. And Brentford, I'm going to also put in C, I think. Maybe these will change, though, to be honest. But I think Brentford again, had a bit of a rough start away from home, but they were scoring a lot at home. I just think they're a bit inconsistent. I think obviously Visser and Mbeumo are very good players, but there's definitely games where Brentford could have got better results, and they haven't. And there's games where I just think, will they challenge the top teams? Again, they're in a similar place to Crystal Palace in the table, so I think C is probably fair. I mean, the Brentford signings, Igor Thiago has barely played because he's been injured. Fabio Carvalho's not good enough, and he's injured anyway. Sepp van den Berg's done all right. Coyote on loan, barely plays. But obviously, Mikkel Damsgaard had a really good season for Brentford, and that has to be acknowledged. He's improved a lot this season, and he's been very, very creative. Right, we're going to go for Everton next, and based off the whole season, I'm going to put Everton in D. I think obviously they had a really rough start. They've had a few draws against the top teams. Obviously drew to Arsenal twice. Drew to Liverpool. Obviously that late drama. Drew to Man City at the Etihad. Drew to Chelsea. So I think they've had an okay season, but they lost to Southampton. They've had some rough results along the way, and obviously a change of manager. Iliman Ndiaye's been a fantastic signing. The rest of them, though, haven't really done much. So I think D's probably fair. I don't want to be having too many teams in like A and A plus, obviously, because it's if every team had had a good season, then we wouldn't be here now. So I think D's fair for Everton. Obviously, some people might disagree with that, but I think that they've. I think next season looks good for Everton as long as they have good recruitment. And obviously, David Moyes is doing a good job there, so he has to get credit. If it was based off just David Moyes' time, it'd be a C/B, but it's based off the whole season. Right, moving on, we're going to go for Brighton next. And Brighton's a very weird one because it looked at one point like they would be like C/D. I'm. Oh, I don't know. It's high C or low B. Because of the amount of money that Brighton spent in the summer, and yeah, they deserve to spend that money because it's a lot of profits from the Caicedo deals and all the deals that they've made with teams in the past. I'm going to put them in high C though, and the only reason I'm putting them in the high C is because quite a few of these new players that they've signed have not played well enough. I mean, Mats Pfeiffer, for example, there was Liverpool fans that wanted him to be joining from Feyenoord to reunite under Arne Slot. He looks terrible. O'Reilly doesn't look very good. Um, Reuter looks okay. Minte looks okay. Um, Diego Gomez looks all right, to be fair. But yeah, I just think that Brighton might get, if they can get a European place, it's still a very successful season. But obviously, it's a new manager as well. But I do think that they've not been, the signings haven't really performed to the expectations that they had. And yeah, I think Brighton obviously had a good run of form, but they had a really bad run of form this season as well. Like, they've also struggled against, they drew with Southampton at home. I think they've drawn to Leicester. I think they've drawn to Ipswich as well. They've in those games where they should be picking up the points to get European places, they haven't done it. So that's why I'm putting Brighton in C. Maybe that's quite harsh, but like I said, I can obviously change these after we put all the teams in. Right, we're going to go for a big team now. We're going to go for Chelsea. And I'm going to put Chelsea in B. Now, I think B is fair for Chelsea because, at one point people, Chelsea fans and manager and Maresca and that weren't saying it, but it looked like Chelsea could be in a potential title race for Liverpool and Arsenal and Man City at one point. Obviously, they dropped off a bit. Palmer hasn't been the same player as he was last season. Obviously, they've had a couple of injuries to like Jackson and um, Lavia. Enzo Fernandez has had a pretty good season. If Chelsea get Champions League, it's a very successful season in my opinion. They'll probably win that Conference League, but obviously we're just talking about the Premier League here. I think B's fair for Chelsea. I don't think they've had like a stellar campaign, but I think that they've been alright. They definitely need a new goalkeeper though. That's for definite. Right, let's get one of the shitters out the way. Leicester F. And look, Leicester will probably score against Liverpool, but Liverpool should beat them a week on Sunday. But yeah, they can't score to save their life. They've broken a record for like the most home games without scoring a goal. It's just loss, 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 loss on their record. They don't look very good at all, and they're going to get relegated in a couple of weeks. And hopefully they do not come back up straight away because I'm sick of these yo-yos. Van Nistelrooy is out of his depth. He's not a Premier League quality manager. There's a reason that he was trying to get the Coventry job. Um, but yeah, a terrible season for Leicester. Recruitment was absolutely terrible. I mean, in January they signed one player for 5 million. Um, I don't actually know if there's any single player that would get a move from Leicester to stay in the Premier League. They've been so bad, so bad. Um, yeah, honestly, they're awful to watch. Awful to watch. Right, moving on. We're gonna go for we're gonna go for Ipswich, and I'm gonna put Ipswich at E. Now I know they're gonna get relegated, okay, but Liam Delap was a very good signing, and they're probably gonna double their money on him. The rest of the signings though weren't really that good. Like O'Shea was okay. Jens Cajuste was good, but he was on loan. Um, Obviously, it was Ipswich's first time in a while that they've been in the Premier League. They should be proud of how they've done, of course, but the gap from staying up to getting relegated just seems really hard now. I think you have to have perfect recruitment, and obviously Ipswich signing players from relegated teams does not help that at all. And signing players from the Championship, yeah, Delap's worked out, and it's probably going to be a big club that come in and activate that relegation release clause of 40 million. But I do think that Ipswich deserve to be in E because they've at least, they've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Spurs. I know Leicester beat Spurs, but that doesn't count. They've definitely had a good go at it, but again, the recruitment wasn't good enough. I think they've got they've got a championship standard defense. The midfield too is okay, but yeah, I'm gonna put them in E. Right, how many teams is that? That's seven. There's so many teams. It's because I don't know who to go for each point. Right, we're gonna go for West Ham, and I'm gonna put West Ham in E as well. But I will put them ahead of Ipswich because at least they're staying up. Now, hopefully, West Ham do not beat Liverpool on Sunday. They shouldn't do, but I didn't expect them to beat Arsenal at the Emirates. West Ham, I put them to finish eighth because I thought, even though I wasn't sure on the Lopetegui appointment, they've made some good signings on paper. That was on paper. Wan-Bissaka's been good. The rest of them, and Tadebo's done okay, but the rest of them have been pretty poor. Somerville's injured. Fulkrug's just come back from injury. Um, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that ranking for West Ham. I think they've been really poor. I don't think Graham Potter will be the manager next season either. I think they'll look at someone else. Yeah, really rough season for West Ham. Obviously, they've conceded 5 goals twice to Liverpool. I think conceded 6 to Arsenal. Yeah, it's been a rough season for the Hammers. But obviously, they beat Arsenal at the Emirates, so that's definitely a positive for them. Something they can take away from this season. Right, so next we'll go for Aston Villa, I think. Villa have had a good season, but they've had drop-offs and they've had good moments, bad moments in the Premier League. They could get Europe. That would be a great season. Um, A or B. It's low A or high B. Do you know what? I'm going to put Villa in A because obviously you saw the drop-off that Newcastle had when they were in the Champions League. Villa are still in the Champions League. Yeah, the recruitment in January is really good. I think they look better now than they did. They look better now than they did. At the first half of the season. I think they will get top seven. They'll have some sort of European football again next season, which, 3 years in a row for Aston Villa would be absolutely superb. Yeah, Rashford, Marlon. I mean, Asensio looks amazing. I think if he's at Villa next season as well, they're going to have another really good season. I'm pretty happy with Villa in my ranking there, A. I think Chelsea might be a bit. I think Chelsea and Brighton could be a bit harsh, They might get changed. Anyway, up next, we're gonna go with Wolves. And I think because of how the first half of the season went compared to now, I think D is a fair rating because, they're in 17th, but they're definitely better under Vitor Pereira. They actually look quite good under Vitor Pereira. They're deservedly going to stay up. I think the expectation was that Wolves would be near the bottom anyway. But I think if Gary O'Neill was still there, they'd probably be in the relegation zone. But Vitor Pereira has done a really impressive job. So I'm going to put them in D because I think the future looks bright for Wolves. Obviously, Matheus Cunha is probably going to leave if someone activates that clause. But Strand Larsen's had a very good season for Wolves. I think he's got 11 Premier League goals. Which, Wolves for a while couldn't find attackers that could score. And now they've got Cunha and Strand Larsen. So yeah, I think D, that's a low D, by the way, for Wolves. Right, next we're going to go with Fulham. And I'm going to put Fulham. Again, it's that B or A category. I'm going to put Fulham in B. I think Fulham have had a really good season. I think they actually should be higher up than they are. Obviously, a really good result against Liverpool at the weekend. Obviously, it was errors, but Fulham deserved to win based off the 90 minutes. Yeah, really good season for Fulham. Could they potentially get a European place? I don't know how far away they are, and I don't know what their fixtures look like, but it's definitely possible. I think their last game of the season is against Man City at Craven Cottage, which could be a potential European decider. But yeah, a really good season from Fulham. You know, a lot of people probably thought they'd be mid-table, but Marco Silva, as always, has done a terrific job there and deserve to be where they are. Next, we're going to go for Tottenham, and this is based off the Premier League. So because it's based off how they're doing in the Premier League, I am going to be putting them in E. They've had an absolutely terrible, terrible season. Postecoglou is very lucky to still be in the job. I don't think Spurs look scary at all. I think their attack isn't that good. I don't think their midfield's good. I don't think that they're defensively solid. They've got good defenders in the team like Van de Ven, Romero, Spence, Vicario as well, but I just don't think. I mean, they're literally in the bottom half. I predict them to finish third this season. They're closer to 20th than they are to top four in terms of table position. Probably not points, obviously, but shocking, shocking season from them. They're lucky they're not in F, to be fair. But I only really have two teams for F: Leicester and, of course, Southampton Football Club. They should not have sacked Russell Martin. Yeah, they'd be getting relegated anyway, but Ivan Juric was a terrible, terrible appointment, just like Van Nistelrooy. Their signings, you know, they were signing players from the fucking Sheffield United's relegated team last season. The only good Southampton signings, genuinely, that I can think of, Ramsdale's done okay, but he's had terrible moments as well. And Mateus Fernandes has been pretty good, to be fair. I think he might get a move away from Southampton. I think he's too good to play in the Championship, Mateus Fernandes. The rest of them, though, terrible. Absolutely terrible. And yeah, F. F is the only place that Southampton and Leicester can go. Right, we're going to go for Newcastle now. And I'm going to put Newcastle in A, high A, but not A+. Brilliant season from Newcastle. Obviously, domestically as well, they've won the Cup. Amazing for them. But it looks very likely now that Newcastle will be in the Champions League next season, and that is deserved. They've had a very, very good season. Obviously, Alexander Isak, major part of that success. Their whole team is very good. Now, if they have the money, they don't have any PSR issues, I don't think, in the summer. They can buy a few really nice players for their team. I think they need a new goalkeeper and probably a new centre-back. But genuinely, apart from that, I don't think they need anyone else. Like, oh, and maybe a right winger. Even though Jacob Murphy's having a really good 2025, I still think that Newcastle should buy an elite right winger if they can, like an Embuemo maybe or a Semenyo. See if they could get any of those two players, but we'll have to see on that. Yeah, it's looking good for Newcastle. They've had a very good season and they deserve to be where they are. So we're left with 6 clubs. Um, yeah, we're left with 6. Who to go for next? We're going to go for Arsenal. Now, based off the Premier League, you know, Man City obviously dropped off. This was meant to be Arsenal's year. They're obviously going to probably still get second. Obviously, people are saying there could still be a title race if Liverpool choke, but there's 11 points. They're 11 points. Liverpool are 11 points ahead with 7 games to go. It should be fine. I'm going to put Arsenal in B. I really am, based off their Premier League season, because they have been actually very disappointing. They've drawn too many matches, and ultimately that's why Liverpool are so far ahead. Obviously, yes, they've had a couple of injuries to their key men, but I do think obviously recruitment was pretty bad. Marino's been a good signing. Sterling hasn't, Neto hasn't, Calafiori's done okay, but he's had a few injuries. So I think B is fair for Arsenal because I mean if they were going to win the league, they'd be an A+. But I think that's fair. I think B's fair for Arsenal. Manchester United. I think it's. I think it has to be E. It has to be E, doesn't it? They're in the bottom half. Manchester United are in the bottom half of the Premier League table. I don't think people actually understand how crazy that is. Yeah, they've performed well in the big games. They've obviously drawn to Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City this season. They beat Man City at the Etihad as well. That was a crazy ending to a game. But against like the mid-table teams, they just get outplayed by them. And obviously Amarim's come in. He's trying to implement his play style. You can see that in recent games it's definitely improving, but it still doesn't look very good. And I think he is fair for Man United. They've had a season to forget. Now, obviously, if they won the Europa League, then they'd be in the Champions League next season. Then you could argue that they've actually done okay in the end. But we're only on about the Premier League, obviously. So yeah. Right, I've left these four to the end because these ones are interesting. We'll start with Bournemouth. Based off the whole season, just because of this recent drop off, I'm gonna have to put them in B. I'm gonna have to put Bournemouth in B. I think they've had a really good season, but I thought they genuinely were gonna get Champions League football about 6 weeks ago when they had all them injuries and they were still playing really, really well. But now they're just not the same team, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna put Bournemouth in B. I think that's a fair placement. I think they've had a really good season regardless, but yeah, they're obviously gonna lose two or three if Kirkes and Huijsen go. It's gonna be hard to replace those type of players. So a really good season though for Bournemouth, regardless of this recent run of form. But the recent run of form has obviously had an impact on their placing. They could have been A plus a couple of months ago. That's genuinely true. They could have been A plus at one point. One team that is obviously A plus though, and is soon to hopefully be Premier League champions and thoroughly deserved, is Liverpool. Yeah, nobody saw this coming before the season started. If someone had told me, "Oh, Liverpool are not going to have Jurgen Klopp anymore, but they're going to be 11 points clear with 7 games to go," I would have been gobsmacked. I wouldn't have believed them. And here we are. They've only signed Federico Chiesa, who's only had 4 Premier League appearances. He should get more appearances, by the way. I think he's a very good player. Yeah, Slot's done a really good job, but he does need to rotate more and trust more of his players. He doesn't trust enough of his players, and obviously we saw this against Fulham. He has to be. Obviously, Liverpool are in a bit of bad form right now in all competitions, knocking out the Champions League, lost the cup final, but if they win the Premier League, it's a 10 out of 10 season, in my opinion. And yeah, they should win it. As long as they win the next 2 games against West Ham and Leicester, it should be fine. And then they have Spurs at home after that as well, which they should win. So they should really get 9 points from the next nine available, and then they would just need 2 from 4 to win it. So yeah, A plus. Man City and Nottingham Forest. Now Nottingham Forest, I'm also putting in A plus because nobody saw Nottingham Forest finishing third. Probably it's going to be third, I expect now. Nobody saw that coming. So yeah, an amazing season from them. Nuno's done great. Now obviously the Manager of the Year award will always go to the Premier League manager that wins the Premier League, so it will be Slot, and that's rightly so. But if it didn't go to Slot, it should go to Nuno. A brilliant, brilliant, brilliant season. Now obviously statistically they're not even that good. Have they rode their luck sometimes? Yes, they have, but that's football. I do think that if they got an injury to like a Murillo, I think Murillo is the most important player probably for Nottingham Forest. I think if he got injured or sold, I think Nottingham Forest could return to mid-table. I mean, they finished 17th 2 seasons in a row. Like, Man United were unlucky, Liverpool were unlucky. You know, they've had games where they've got wins or draws where they were very, very lucky, but that's football. That's football. They deserve to be where they are. They've had a really impressive season. Man City's a tough one because they haven't been Man United. I'm gonna put Man City in D, but I'll put them at there in D. Man City in D because they fell off. Like obviously Rodri injury's bad, but they just don't look half the team that they have done in the last 6, 7 years under Pep Guardiola. So I think I don't even know how many points they're off Liverpool now, but it must be about 20. Um, if they get Champions League, at least they've got Champions League for next year. The recruitment has to be very important in the summer because last summer's transfers were not very good. Savinho's been okay, but nothing special at the moment. Obviously, they've signed some players in January. Marmoush looks good, obviously, but yeah, the Man City's future looks different than what we would have said 12 months ago. They're going to have to get rid of some of their veterans, I think, like Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, Kyle Walker, even though he's on loan. They need a new right back. They need a new attacking midfielder. De Bruyne's leaving. So, would I make any changes to this? I think I'm gonna actually put. I might put Chelsea in A. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move Brighton to B, and I'm gonna put Chelsea in A because I think if Chelsea get top four, they've had a very good season, regardless of the money that they've spent. I genuinely think that's pretty good ratings from myself. I do believe that. Maybe Wolves could have been an E, but I'm pretty happy with those. But let me know down below what you would also have gone for this. But that is going to be the end of this video. Alright, this should be out on Friday, so hopefully you enjoy. Let me know what you think down below of each team's Premier League season, and thanks for watching. See you later.